Welcome to episode 6 of Glow Up Syndrome. This is your host, Mick. We have a special guest today, Remi. I would like to just recap what we're going to talk about today. So, as you all know, Glow Up Syndrome is about working hard towards our best self. So far, we've covered like maximizing productivity, educational and career aspirations. What we have yet to cover is how we can work towards our best selves physically. So, this is a really important episode to me. I will say before we get into it, if the topic around eating is like triggering and you struggle with eating disorders, or if you just think that it would be bad for you to hear right now, this is just your trigger warning. And now to introduce Remi. Remi is a holistic health coach. That's also her title on Instagram. In fact, she's a certified naturopath, a nutrition coach, and a personal trainer. So she focuses specifically on helping others achieve healthier eating patterns, providing one-on-one sessions, digital courses, and a range of easy to digest advice on her Instagram page, which by the way is super, super cute. Remi, if you want to just introduce yourself from your own perspective.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much. I'm so grateful and excited to be here with you and to have this conversation because I feel like this is such a big topic, and because of it, it's a little confusing at times. I'm so glad we're doing this and kind of breaking down a little bit of the big concepts and breaking them down to small little bites so we can all understand how to move forward to our better selves and healthier selves.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to talk about what current projects you're maybe pursuing right now?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. I'm now helping clients, as you said, one-on-one with creating healthier patterns, healthier, guilt-free food choices, how to make those guilt-free food choices. I'm also working on a new digital course that's come out soon. So I'm excited
Wow.
about that. Yeah, it's going to be around beginning of July, maybe end of
Where
June.
did you start this passion for holistic health?
My journey started with my own self struggle for probably most of my adult life. From growing up, I was struggling with my body, with my weight. I looked in the mirror and only could see everything I hated and everything I wanted to change. And I was kind of like in this rush and this marathon looking for the next diet, the next solution. And because of that, my ultimate dream and my ideal heaven world is that every girl and every woman on this planet will be will feel content and will feel good and free being herself in her body, because I know and remember those pain, the pain that I went through and the struggles I went through with that. So that's kind of that what led me to do what I do
Yeah,
now.
I can
um
certainly resonate with that. And I'm sure so many people can resonate, which is why, again, I think it's so important to do this episode. We're going to be covering three things today, as you already know, Remi. There's intuitive eating. We're going to talk about IBS, which is really important to me personally. And then we're going to talk about um, holistic health specifically. What does it mean to you to eat intuitively?
Intuitive eating is, as it sounds, it's basically listening to your body and eat based on your intuition. Now, it's important to also understand that your body has a voice, right? Your body speaks to you.
I love that phrase, your body has a voice. That's so quotable.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the perfect example for this would be we went for a trip last month, and we went to like this fancy hotel, and I kind of get very like excited when I'm on vacation, so I'm like road trip, so I eat really junk.
Yeah, and that's
And
totally okay once in a while, right?
oh yeah, of course. And my body at one point, like after a day or two that I was like pizza and all
Mhm.
those stuff, my body started speaking to me, and my body was
Mhm.
like, I'm tired. I'm like
Yeah.
just stop. That's the most essential point to understand. And we want to learn how to listen to those signals and follow them. And that is to me intuitive eating. Now there are a ton of books out there about intuitive eating and podcasts and all kinds of information. So I'm just going to share today, from my own experience, professional and personal experience.
Can I ask them, like, you said that our body has signals. So can you explain a little bit like how that works? Like maybe what are the signals that you look out for? Like how do you eat like intuitively?
So I feel like the first step is to remember that those signals are basically, it's super simple. It's basically your body can tell you when you're hungry, your body can tell you when you're full, your body can tell you when you're thirsty. That's it, basically. It's simple. However, what happens if you're like me and tried, I don't know, hundreds of diets in your life, those signals, they're messed up. And you kind of want to find them and re-understand them.
Even without people without experience of dieting a lot, we live in a world that's just, you have so much input from everywhere and you forget to listen to yourself, to your body.
100%, 100%. That's such a good point, and I'm so glad you said it. Especially nowadays that we have social media, we compare ourselves, even if we want to or not. And sometimes I gotta be honest. Sometimes I don't know if it happened to you. Tell me if it did. That sometimes you like you go into like a scroll hole, on Instagram or TikTok, whatever, and you see people eat like pizza and stuff like that, and all of a sudden I feel like, oh, I want pizza, and I don't really want pizza, but
it's a spiral. Your mind is so powerful. You don't realize like you might not actually even be hungry, and then you'll see pictures of food and then your body will think that you're hungry because your mind is telling you that it's hungry.
Thank you for saying that, because that's exactly what I mean when our bodies, when your body tells you I'm hungry. So one tip that I can give now to anyone that listens, and if you take this, it sounds a little bit of a hassle to do, but if you take a week of your life and within this week, take the first 3 days, of this week, have kind of like a log, have kind of like a journal or, just like a notepad, whatever. And write down when you're eating, write down, how do you feel? Do you feel full? Do you feel excited to eat? Do you feel maybe you're even thirsty and you're just eating, or maybe you're bored,
Yeah. Or do you feel like eating is a chore? Like you're doing it and like you're like, oh, I have to eat because it's dinner time, but you're not actually hungry.
Taking those 3 days, just 3 days, and writing it down, every meal, like even snacking, even like, I don't know, milkshake, whatever. Writing this down, this brings your awareness, your focus, your understanding of how it really feels physically in your body to eat when you're not really hungry, or to eat when you're super hungry. So once you have this awareness, then the next 2 or 3 days, leave the notepad behind, kind of look at it. But the next 3 days, start just asking yourself a question like, do I really want to eat this right now? Am I really hungry right now? Am I really snacky right now? Am I really bored right now? Just kind of, and again, it all comes down, it's like essentially it's 5 days of an exercise. But once you do that, and this is an exercise that I can swear by, it's actually not mine, I cannot take credit for it, but once I started doing that, and I started also teaching my clients to do that, that's a game changer.
It sounds like a game changer. I mean, just thinking about it, it's genius because you're kind of uniting your mind and your body, right? Like these are two things that have, I guess, like been disconnected when you think of these other eating fads and unhealthy eating attitudes. But then you're reuniting them and you're saying, hey, like listen to each other.
And that's the core, for me, that's the core of intuitive eating, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful actually. This conversation that we're having and the ways to describe it, it's very, I think we're kind of digging into like our humanity, if that makes sense, rather than like being so confounded by everything else around us. For me, intuitive eating has like a specific like resonance, just because I also had a similar experience as you where I was like dieting and dieting and dieting I was like, when the pandemic hit, we were just in our rooms on social media all the time. So many people went on diets, including myself. And oh my gosh, you kind of just spiral. You get caught in this net of I need to look this certain way, and you're never going to be satisfied if you're basing your eating habits on how you look. I think that that's so unhealthy because you're never going to be satisfied with how you look. You're going to be like, I need to reach this goal, this next goal, I need this, that, and it's going to get deeper and deeper. You're going to, you have to kind of get out of that. And I don't think I got out of it soon enough. I guess for me, I wanted to be skinnier like everything else I was seeing online, but it actually slowed my metabolism down so much. It actually is hurtful to your own body. When I got off that diet, it was really bad. I was eating like less than 1,000 calories per day for like a year. No carbs, no sugar.
Wow.
It was
Oh
it
my
was and
God.
I was working out every single day. And there were days where I would work out and not rest. And I was like, no, I need to keep going. But that's so bad because I was like hurting my own body, right? And my body, like once I got off of that, I went and it's interesting because I went back to uni like in person and I snapped out of it. And I was like, no, I need to like function. I need food to fuel me. The pandemic kind of just when you're in your room and you're on your phone just sent me into like this spiral. But then I got out of it. I started eating normally in the proportions that I knew my body needed for the energy I needed that day. And my body couldn't digest the food. Like I was having
Wow.
stomach pains, stomach problems. And I was like, in no question in my mind, I was like, this is because I was dieting so much, right?
Yes.
And I know that, I took a class on like body regulation and there's really like I know that there's scientific proof that your body needs to like your metabolism needs to know how to work. Like if there's no food in it, it'll forget like how to do its job. So that's why for me, I'm so attracted to the concept of intuitive eating. I try to do it today. I won't say I'm as experienced as you, but I try to implement it in my life when I can. And it really makes a difference, not just body wise, but mind wise. And I think those are two important things. You can't just be like, I am happy with my body and how I feel in it. You also have to be like, I'm happy with the way I think about food.
First of all, let me just say that I'm so proud of you and so happy that you were able
Thank
to,
you.
to step out of this mindset because it is damaging in the long
Yeah.
run. And as you
And
said, your body couldn't digest.
yeah, and I don't think it's a unique experience. So many girls go through this, like
Mm.
especially because like how damaging it is.
And this is why I'm so grateful for our conversation now, because I remember on my days that I was feeling like that, I felt like I'm the only one. I felt like I'm alone. I felt like nobody will understand. And I see also now with my clients that they first come, the same as my experience as well, right? But this conversation that we are having right now is bringing this up to the surface and showing other girls, maybe boys as well, that it's okay, that you're not alone, that it happens to the best of us, and that's okay. And then another thing that I wanted to point out as well that you mentioned, yes, in the long term, and now I'm going to give my naturopath perspective, that in the long term, if you think about it, when you eat less of what you need, your body doesn't have enough nutrients meaning vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, all those things that your brain needs, your digestive system needs, your immune system needs, your hair needs, all those things you kind of prevent from your body to have. And this is not good in the long run, and it can create all kinds of health conditions.
And I like, well, if my understanding of a naturopath is correct with the way you explained it, I like the thought of eating and seeing your body, like seeing food as like a source of fuel, as a source of energy, rather than this like demon. Think about it like scientifically, right? Like we have these needs and you have to fulfill them, but you also have to strike a balance. You can't have too much, too little. I love thinking about it as in terms of needs and in terms of to function as a human, not to function as like this person who looks this way, but to function as a human who needs to accomplish these certain tasks.
Yeah. 100%, I agree. When your battery goes low on your phone, you charge your phone, right? So it's
Yes.
pretty similar. Obviously, it's a little different, but it's pretty similar. So basically, if you think about food as this charger, it can be, for charger for my physical health, for vitamins, nutrients, all the things, but it could also be for my soul, as I mentioned before, the vacation we took, and I ate pizza. It was for my soul, obviously. There's not
Yes.
really a lot of nutrients in
And
pizza,
that's
but I was
totally
happy.
fine. Like you have to do that once in a while, right? You also have to feed your soul, but you have to again like
100%.
strike that balance. You have to feed your soul, not too much, then you have to feed your body according to the healthier nutrients that it needs. I wonder if you have a take on other benefits of intuitive eating that we haven't touched upon yet.
I would like to say the first thing is, and this is something that I see a lot, is that many people that go into intuitive eating, their goal is to lose weight. I feel like that's a mistake because intuitive eating is really the opposite of having a mindset of diet, because the mindset of diet is like, okay, I'm going to eat X amount of whatever calories or, amount of food a day to lose weight. And intuitive eating comes back to, as you say, our nature as humans, and say, okay, wait a second, like my body has these types of needs. It could be that when someone will start intuitive eating, and listening to their body, it could be that they will lose weight, but it's not a guarantee. And it's not kind of like like a race that you end up in a certain station or in a certain point. It's your whole life, right? And what will happen with intuitive eating is that your body will reach a state of equilibrium, which basically means that it's optimal weight. Your body will reach its optimal weight, and each body has its own optimal weight. And this is why it's very individual, obviously. Don't go into it if you feel like your goal is to lose weight. And another thing that I feel like is a huge benefit is once you learn how to listen to your body, once you learn how to intuitive eating, right? You free up so much space in your mind to deal with other stuff, to think about other stuff rather than food,
Exactly.
right?
Yes, yes, I know that feeling all too well. It's such a good feeling. You're like when you're actually like, it's like you wake up. I know people have gone on diets and they like people have gone on diets and not gotten their periods, for example,
Mm.
and then they just lack energy. I listened to this podcast of like there's this creator named Miriam Hart. I don't know if you've seen her show on Netflix, but she talks about her journey, her eating disorder journey, and how she came out of it. She started eating more food, she started eating more intuitively, and suddenly her family thought that she was on drugs because she had so much energy all of a sudden.
Oh, yeah.
But that was just because she started eating. She started giving herself that energy she needed.
I love the most when I work with clients, coaching clients. I love the most that they text me after a while, I at the beginning I thought that I'm eating too much, but now I lost weight. I feel so much better. My skin looks better, my hair looks better, and I'm like, well,
And they're
um,
happier.
and they're happier. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's amazing.
I think there's also one last thing I want to plug in before we move on to the next topic, which is that you touched on optimal weight. And I think that people have this thing of optimal weight being like a certain, like, skinny fit, but everyone is born with a different body type. Some bodies store more fat than others. Some are more muscular, some are skinnier. I mean, it's counterintuitive to the way our society kind of approaches it, but we have to be aware of that and learn to accept ourselves. As hard as that sounds, it's just something to keep in mind that we really are truly all built differently, and you can't compare because you have very different starting points, very different builds. It's really just not on the same level. We're all humans, but every single human is so different physically.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And thank you for pointing that out. You know how sometimes you see like bloggers and people, creators and stuff, what I eat in a day and all those kind of things. And I remember back in my days, I was so obsessed about it. And I was like, oh, she's so skinny. She has the gap in between her thighs, which
The
is what
ab
I
line,
wanted.
the
I know.
yeah.
Yeah. And then I see her eating like I don't know, whatever, smoothie and like a thing and like a salad. And I'm like, and I tried it, but I was so hungry and
Yeah.
frustrated
And
and it
and
didn't work for me,
and I
right?
know people who have that body alternatively and they eat like junk. And
Yes.
so it really just goes to show you really you just can't compare.
I do want to give one more tip around that, because this is also something that ultimately can shift everything for you if you're really going to do it for everyone who listens. And it's get into a routine, into a habit that every day before you close your eyes, before you go to sleep, ask yourself, what did my body do for me today? Just a simple question. And it could be, my body helped me breathe, right? And my body helped me move from one place to another. Because once you start asking this question, you bring back the focus from, as you mentioned before, you don't want to base your eating habits according to your looks, the way you look. You want to base your eating habits according to how you feel and what your body needs. So start asking this question, what does my body do for me? It's it's another game changer for me in that case, because
I
you start
love
to,
that.
yeah,
You start to
you start to understand and be grateful of your body regardless of how it looks. Yes, you might not like the way it looks in the mirror. You might, want to go down a size in your jeans, which is okay. However, at the same time, you can still be grateful that you have a body.
exactly like you get up, you can walk, you can get yourself places, you can I mean that is the purpose, right, of your body. And I love that. Now I want to talk about IBS, which stands for irritable bowel syndrome. This is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. Not only do I struggle with it, I have a lot of family members who do. My mom struggled with it for 8 years. Somehow it just went away. But it's really, really, I've seen and I've felt myself the impact it can have on someone's life. It sounds like such a small thing, but it's for me, it's like it's this whole scientific mystery. It's something that has no cure. It's to actually to describe it first, it is a chronic gastrointestinal condition that is commonly characterized by bloating, abdominal pain, and changes in bowel habits, just to name a few. It's most prevalent in women under the age of 50, and estimatedly 10 to 15% of the global population suffers from this. But again, there is no known cure. No one knows what causes it. There's a lot of research that kind of speculates, but there's nothing that's been like really solidly like pinpointed. And I think this is a condition that varies with the person. And it ties in very well, I think, with the concept of intuitive eating because it's so personalized. I think for me, I learned to eat intuitively because of my IBS, actually. I learned that I had to listen to my body more and recognize when it's bloating, when it's in pain, when it's telling me something, when it's hurting. I learned that I had to kind of change the way I was eating. I couldn't, like, for example, a long time ago, if I was on a, like, trying to diet and I was just having bloating and abdominal pain, I'm like, I'm not going to hurt my body anymore, right? Like, you really have to listen. I think this taught me a lot about listening to your body. If there's anything I've taken away from it, but it still intrigues me a lot. I'd like to talk about the connection between food, stress, IBS symptoms. There's a lot of factors that go into it. So one thing that I've had to become aware of is like food sensitivities. So like I developed my IBS condition maybe 5 years ago, and I started getting massive stomach aches, bloating, like indigestion when I had beef, when I had coffee. And over the years, I've kind of learned other foods that trigger it, which are, like beans, highly acidic foods. I know that acidic foods trigger that reaction in people naturally. But for me, it would trigger like a whole episode that would last maybe a week, few days, 2 months sometimes, if you really don't know. Yeah. But then there's also the other side of it where research talks a lot about the gut brain axis, which basically is, the research kind of builds on this assumption that our gut and our brain, the axis between our gut and our brain, is kind of damaged in a way. I think there's something called the vagus nerve in our somewhere there, like in our spinal cord or something. Correct me if I'm wrong, Remi. What they say is that it's that pathway is dysregulated. I think there's one thing I've learned that has said that your body goes in like preservation mode, and it tries to, like, the indigestion happens because it tries to store those nutrients. I know when you're stressed, your body goes into fight or flight. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I don't know if I'm going to have food, if I'm going to have water. Just thinking in terms of evolution, your body just wants to help you survive. And when it feels that stress, it's like, okay, we're in a high risk, high danger situation. I need to preserve whatever's here. We're not going to digest the food. We're going to store it there as energy. That's at least what I've learned could be a potential cause. Two more things. It might be hormonal changes, for one. Personally, I think that I've noticed that when I'm about to get my period, a week before, oh my gosh, my IBS gets so bad. Like, I literally look like a pregnant lady. Despite not having eaten anything, one day I'll wake up and my stomach is huge, like bloated. And I'm like, what is going on? A week later, I get my period and I'm like, that makes sense. I didn't eat any of my trigger foods. I've not been stressed, but I got my period. So, and there is research to support that. One more thing that's really interesting, this is more of a small factor, but people have speculated something about oxygen intake. So, like, I try not to drink from straws because I know that straws can get a lot of air in your system, and your body just stores that air. It causes bloating, causes pain. Who knows, right? Maybe the way you chew, some people say that the way you chew can kind of, like, I don't know, it just creates more air. And I don't know, you probably know more about this, Remi. I'd love to hear your take about these four, like, theories I've outlined. These are just things that I've read as someone who suffers from IBS.
The first thing that I will say about what you mentioned is, again, you mentioned that it's a condition and it's a mystery, and that's exactly that. IBS is a syndrome. It's not considered as a disease, yet so common for so many people to experience that. And I want to touch base on what you said around stress and around kind of like gut and brain connection. And one point to that, to kind of keep it a little simple, is the understanding that our gut, our digestive system, let's start with this. Our digestive system starts with our mouth and ends in our back side, right? It ends in our anus, right?
Yes.
So it's super long. It's super long. Our bowels are like, it's insane. Like, if you take out, obviously you don't want to do it because it's gross, but like if you take out, it's like so long.
Yeah, it's all like,
and it's kind of like tied in. Yeah, it's kind of like wrapped
just imagining, like, I'm just imagining the picture books that I was showing growing up of, like, the digestive system.
So keep that in mind, and the understanding that this huge digestive system has all over it, it has neurotransmitters, basically meaning that the entire nervous system is within our, not entire, but is connected, right, to our digestive system. So obviously, and a lot of times there are also a lot of books that talk about that kind of people call our digestive system our second brain, right? Because of that. So it's very sensitive to a lot of things. And when you said also in terms of food sensitivity and all those kind of stuff, I'll touch that in a second. But to understand that really there are a lot of neurotransmitters in our digestive system. And once we're in a stress lifestyle, once we're stressed, and by the way, stress can also be physical with what we spoke earlier about the diet. because, right,
Yes.
let's say you don't give your body enough nutrients, your body goes into stress, as you said, like the fight or flight. It's like, oh my God, what's happening? If you were your body,
Self-preservation.
you would be, yeah, you would be so scared. You'd be like, oh my God, no, I need more food.
Yeah, I need to
So
survive.
yeah, so your body goes into stress, therefore it creates more hormones, like stress hormones, which affect ultimately the digestive system, right? So that could be the first point and the first connection. And the second thing that you mentioned also in terms of food sensitivity and acidic and alkaline is so crucial to understand. And not only, by the way, for IBS, also for
A
everybody
lot
else.
of,
Yeah, because when our body is about 80%, maybe even more water, fluid. Okay. So when we eat, when our nutrition is based on foods that are acidic, like sugar, dairy products, meat, coffee, alcohol, all those kind of stuff, junk food, processed food, all those things, they actually raise the acidity in our body, in our blood, right? And
okay.
then yeah, and then what happens is our entire body becomes acidic. When our body becomes acidic, we're more exposed to all kinds of conditions. So autoimmune diseases, IBS, Crohn diseases, all kinds
Oh,
of things.
wow.
Even with hair loss, we'll start losing our hair and we don't
Oh,
know why.
wow.
Or yeah, or
That's
migraines.
interesting. Migraines, really.
Yeah, because our body fluids are acidic. So that's a really good point to understand. Also, not only for IBS.
It's so important to understand what's going on in your own body. You're putting things in your body, you're making it work towards different goals, and you just don't know what's going on internally.
It also emphasized the point that we made earlier about intuitive eating, because as you said, the silver lining, and it's so beautiful that you mentioned that the silver lining is, okay, I need to listen to my body. This is the same approach that we have with holistic health or natural health, right? To manage this situation, we want to support the entire, we want to support the person as a whole, because it affects your lifestyle, it affects your mood, it affects everything you do, really, because you need to go to work when your stomach hurts, or you need to study for a test in uni and you're feeling horrible. So we want to understand that and obviously decrease stress, and finding ways to be more mindful during
Yeah.
our days, as well as to reduce as much as possible the acidity in our bodies with eating things that are more alkaline. And it's super easy to find. You can also find
By
online lists.
alkaline, you mean what do you mean by
So
alkaline?
the term of acidic or basic really is determined by something that's called a pH. A pH is
Yes.
the kind of like the measurement. You know what
Yes,
I'm
I
talking
know the
about.
pH
Yeah.
levels. Yeah.
Yeah. So the pH, the neutral one is number 7. That's how
Yeah.
they found it, right? So anything that goes below 7 is more acidic. So there you will
Okay.
find all the things that I mentioned, like coffee,
Yeah.
yeah,
And are
alcohol,
those are
sugar.
what you say are the more alkaline
No,
foods,
these
or
are
is it the
acidic,
opposite?
the
Okay, so it's
opposite.
acidic versus alkaline. Okay, I see
Exactly.
now. Okay.
Exactly. So, and you can find that really online. I just the other day printed out, just like a kind of like a scale or a chart. Just Google, acidic or alkaline pH chart, whatever. And you can find lists of foods. So you want to focus more. And again, not regardless of IBS or anything like that, you want to focus more on alkaline foods that will nourish your body,
Yeah.
basically.
I believe there's a name for that. There's like a whole list of foods that are more alkaline. There's some sort
Yeah,
of chart.
I can send it
Yeah,
to you.
so we covered intuitive eating as listening to our own bodies. I want to emphasize in this section just being kinder to our own bodies. So if I know, for example, that I'm going to go take an exam, I want to be kind to my body that day and nourish it with the things that I know will make it happy, won't trigger it. I'll hydrate a lot. I'll move my body before the exam. You know, you have to be very not just attuned to the world you live in and to your body, but also to the specific situations that you're putting your body in. And that's what I mean by being kinder to yourself. I want to talk about holistic health and well-being. So you specialize in holistic health. What does holistic health mean to you? Why holistic health?
I think you asked before also about naturopath and what does it mean. It's pretty
Yes,
much the
the same
same
thing.
idea. Yeah, for me at least. So holistic health looks at the person as a whole, right?
Okay.
Because we're more than just a body. Create positive habits and create positive changes that are on at least three levels. So behavioral balance, emotional balance, and physical balance. These are the top three that will combine this idea of holistic, because holistic means looking at the person as a whole. So we're talking about creating habits that support you and support your health, or mindful habits around not necessarily morning routine, but maybe meditation or journaling or go for a walk or read a book, do something for your soul and for emotions,
So this is what we touched on earlier with, eating, not just eating things that are nutritious, but also things that are good for your soul, like striking that balance between behavioral, emotional, and physical. Exactly. Wow.
And that also, by the way, again, going back to what we spoke about in terms of diet mentality and all those things, once you have balance on all those three levels, you can see results. And so you can see positive change that can last for a longer time rather than just a diet that you do for, I don't know, 30 days of cabbage soup or whatever, one of the
It's
diets I tried.
I
So
think holistic health to me could also be termed like lifelong health, because you're thinking more long term. You're not thinking for the moment, you're thinking for what would make your body its healthiest for the future, for your future self. I want to just talk about these products that you believe in so much.
it's actually interesting because they're not supplements. I'm taking them since October 2016, so almost 7 years now. And when I looked at the ingredients, I was so stunned because they're just food. They're just fruits and vegetables. They were picked in their prime state, which means that all
Wow.
the nutrients, yeah, and all the nutrients are there and alive and and potent to absorb in the body. What they did, they take them at the prime and then they freeze dry them. That's a certain process that they do,
Does that
which
store the nutrients
exactly,
more?
exactly, which stores the nutrients. And then they started doing all kinds of you can find on I can link that if you like, but you can find clinical research that show that the absorption percent from these capsules that are just fruits and vegetables, there are 30 different fruits and vegetables in those capsules,
30, that's a
that
lot.
it's a lot. And by the way, in the US, the amount that is recommended for fruits and vegetables is about between 7 to 10 a day. You need to eat between 7 to 10 fruits and vegetables a day.
And you take this
Personally, I
every
don't.
day. So it's
Yes,
like 30 a day.
exactly.
Wow.
And then
30 a day
yeah,
keeps the doctor away.
100%. And again, I'm taking them for almost 7 years, and oh my God, I mean, energy levels. I started taking them back then, by the way, because of hair loss. So going back to what we spoke about earlier with, with IBS and alkaline foods, fruits and vegetables are alkaline. And the cool thing about them is because they freeze dry them, you don't have sugar in them and you don't have fiber in them. And therefore, it's also easy for your body to absorb them.
Digest. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, has been like a pain. I know
Oh, I
there's a
bet.
fiber intake, but it comes with so many complications as well. You have to have the exact amount right, and it's just so complicated when you don't know that there's a certain amount of fiber in this food, that food. So That's that's really great to hear. You said that you have like higher energy levels from this. What else have been the effects? Like, what is it for you? What is the experience of taking these like?
So for me, again, I started back then with because I
Hair
had a
loss.
major hair
Yeah.
loss, and I started to understand that it's because of nutritional gaps. So I ate
Mm,
healthy, but I understood that at one point, okay, maybe, well, there could be a couple of things. It could be that my body wasn't absorbing the nutrients that I got from food. And this is, by the way, very individual. It could be that your body absorbs amazing and it could be that your body doesn't. And, it has so many factors in it. I'm not going to go to that now, but,
yeah.
um, and then I understood, okay, I need to figure out a way to give my body all the nutrients in a way that will guarantee this absorption. I think after around a month and a half, I was like, it was insane that I it was
That's
insane to
that's
compare.
very that's very quick
Yeah,
to be seeing results as well.
I know. So I don't know what it was. Again, it's very individual. So it's only my
Yeah.
experience. But I see from clients, and because I work with this company too, I see with clients, they talk a lot about energy levels. Because again,
Yeah.
imagine your body gets everything it needs every single day.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
obviously,
I really want to try this myself. I
oh
there are
yeah,
days where I'm like very low, especially bad IBS days, so low energy. And it
yeah.
could be a similar issue of like nutritional gaps. Who knows, right? Like we're so surrounded by all these commercial foods and all these preservatives, even like the vegetables that we buy sometimes, if they're like frozen or something, you
Mm.
don't know what they put in there. We don't know what is put into our food. And I just think it's important to try to fill in that nutritional gap that our society leaves open.
And again, that's why I also joined them as an affiliate, because if you look at this package and you look at another supplement, a multivitamins package, in their bottle, you can see only fruits and vegetables. But on a multivitamin, you see all kinds of chemical attaches and all kinds of different names that you're like, well,
Stick to what's
maybe you're
natural. Yeah.
exactly. I swear by them.
And I think one important thing that we haven't covered yet is, you know, exercise, calories in, calories out, and the scale. I took this class called Obesity and the Regulation of Body Weight. And it was interesting because our professor was exaggerating a lot the importance of calories in, calories out, and how, exercise isn't that effective for losing weight, which is really shocking, right? Shocking. I can see the look in your face. It's really shocking. There's no way that's not true. And they were like, all that matters is calories in, calories out. But that message overall, I think, is just very misconstrued. I mean, exercise does wonders for your metabolism, for your mood, as we were talking about holistic health. This is another really interesting lesson from that class I learned is that there are differences in metabolic activity. So when you're born, you don't have control over these things. Sometimes it's generational things. Some people have genes that predispose them to carry more body fat. So sometimes you can eat the exact same amount as other people and work out exactly the same way, but not get the same results. And I think this just emphasizes of the point of like you really can't be too hard on yourself. You don't know what's going on really, really deep down in our genes. And I mean, sometimes you can really just be doing everything you can and people will beat themselves up for that. They'll be like, I can't lose weight. I need to try something else. I need to revamp this whole strategy. The standards that society has set, these numbers, these scales, they put you in a box and you shouldn't put yourself into that box.
As you said, we're so different. We are very similar, but we're so different at the end of the day. And once we start putting in simple habits, start taking simple steps every single day in order to be healthier and look at the holistic, and look at ourselves as a whole, also considering our moods, considering what will make us feel good. And, you mentioned also the scale and calories and all these type of things. And I gotta be honest, this is something that I, sometimes I have people coming and starting working with me on coaching, and they say, oh, do I need to go on the scale and send you my, my measurement every week? And I'm like, no, just throw away the scale. If you want to work with me, please throw away the scale. Like, just don't talk to me
Yes.
about this, because there's so many other things that you can measure, as your energy level, how you feel. That's so important than just the
Yes.
size on your, in your jeans, right?
And also the
So,
scale is based on like Western, like, the white male. And
mhm,
and everyone's built so differently. It doesn't take into account how differently everyone is built. I just want to emphasize that it just assumes that you're already built a certain way, which you're not. And so if you see a high number on there that you're not happy with, it's like that shouldn't have any meaning to you. It shouldn't influence the decisions you make in your life. It's not that accurate for you, who you are.
and also to that, the number that you see on the scale is built from so many factors, from how many water you drank last night, how much salt did you eat yesterday, hormonal. If you're a woman, your cycle every day could look so different. So the number on the scale really doesn't say much.
We made a list of the 5 things that we think would help you love yourself more, because again, we're talking about holistic health. We're talking about being kind to yourself and listening to yourself. So we just want to give you these tips to help you lead a happier life. And so the first one is, don't be afraid to let go of habits that don't serve you anymore. Again, if you've been so used to like dieting, if you're so used to this specific, like ideal that society has put out, don't be afraid to let go of those ideals, those attitudes, those habits, and wrap your head around what might serve you better in that moment. Another tip is, don't compare yourself to others. We've touched on this so much. Each body is built so differently. Every person is inherently meant to be different too. So focus on yourself. Work towards being the best you. Work on yourself, and that's all that matters. Third is, trust your gut. Both physically and emotionally, your gut always knows what's up. I think, like, the fact that our gut is connected to our nervous system, your gut truly is like the second brain.
The fourth is spend time with yourself. Get to know yourself, enjoy your own company, be friends with yourself, take yourself for a walk, a date. Just enjoy being you, because you are you, and that's your superpower. And it's not just a cliche. And the fifth tip is, start making a list. It's something I heard in a book. Start making a list of things you love about yourself. So every day, put one thing there. For example, I love my smile, and I add it on the list. And then every day, go back to the list after you add the one thing for the day, and read that list, the whole list, all over again. And then it will just create magic in your life.
The goal really is happiness, right? At the end of the day. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Let me know what you guys think about the episode and this guest speaker style conversation. And if you want more of these conversations in the pod, before we end, I want to plug in Remi's Instagram handle. It's at Remi Hike. So that's RemiHaik. You can follow her on Instagram to learn more about the topic, connect. I'll also link some of the things that we talked about. And also don't forget to follow at Glow Up Syndrome on Instagram and join our Geneva community. The links, as usual, to all of these accounts are in the episode description. And yeah, I'll be back next week. Thank you. Bye.